What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line in the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we're here today, oh man, with the next month's issue of the Starships collection from Fanhome with the USS Stargazer, NCC 82893 from Season 2 of Star Trek Picard. And our first, now, we will see the Inquiry class later on. At the very end of Season 1 of Star Trek Picard, obviously season one is the first time we're reapproaching the legacy era when Star Trek came back online back in 2017. And when Picard came out in 2019, I believe is what it was, or maybe even early 2020, actually, now that I think about it. It's amazing how time flies, isn't it, folks? But when we at the end of season one, we're introduced to a new style of Starfleet ship, and that's going to be the Inquiry class. That's what Riker comes in at the end of the season. The old cavalry arrives, and they're all the same ship, and it was kind of weird and felt very non-Star Trek. So at the beginning of season two, we're introduced to the USS Stargazer. Now, obviously, as Star Trek fans, and if you watch The Next Generation, you obviously know the Stargazer is a name. And some of you might be going, well, hey, why is that not the original registry of the Stargazer, 2893? Now, the reason for that is very simple, is that that ship, as I described in the last time we did this, did not receive a legacy registry. This is the first ship to be named the Stargazer since Picard's ship went down before he took over as captain of the Enterprise. And so you would expect to see, you assumed that all ships carrying the name would carry the same registries, and that's just not the case here. So if you're curious about why that is, go ahead and look to my previous episode, and we will talk a little bit about this in the coming up section before we actually unbox the model. And so without further ado, the new section that we're going to be doing for each one of these models as they come out, let me know if you guys like this. It is a little bit of a to-do to put these together. I really do enjoy them. But if you guys don't like this sort of thing, just let me know. I'm very curious, but it's something that I've been kind of looking to do when I first subscribed to this way back when. So a little bit of facts and figures for you, a little bit of the behind the scenes on the design of this ship, and then when we come back, we're going to go ahead and get this bad boy unboxed, and we'll take a look at the model itself. So go ahead and enjoy a little bit of facts and figures, both real and not real, made by real people. I don't know. Enjoy. In season 2 of Star Trek Picard, we were finally introduced to a new Starfleet ship. Now, at the end of season 1, we were briefly shown the Inquiry class. For Starfleet designs, it's kind of classic but boring, and they didn't really give us much detail. Now, this changed, obviously, at the beginning of season 2. Designed for season 2 of Picard by Doug Drexler, the Sagan class Stargazer was introduced, and it was the first real close-in look at a Starfleet ship of the Legacy era moved forward 20 years. So, obviously, from the events of Star Trek Nemesis to the beginning of season 1 of Picard, about 20 years had passed, and this was the first kind of show of new design for Starfleet in the Legacy era. And when we say that this ship has callbacks to many, many Star Trek legends, let's just say that Doug Drexler, who was the designer of Voyager and the NX-01, was also helped by John Eves, if, as you guys can see here, was the designer of the Enterprise E, with help from Thomas Moroni and then Dave Blass, who was the production designer for Star Trek Picard. For the interior stuff, which we're not going to see in this model, Mike and Denise Okuda helped out with the build of the ship. So these are some Star Trek legends spanning back 30, 40 years of Star Trek life. And let's just say that the design of this ship really comes through. It feels true, it feels accurate, and it feels correct to what we saw in previous, like Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, the evolution of Starfleet design had moved forward, and this is what it would look like 20 years later. And I do have to say that it is a really cool design. Now, the Stargazer, as you guys can see, does not have the legacy registry on it. As I mentioned in the previous segment, there is a bit of a, I guess, a call to naming it the Stargazer. We'll talk about it here in a quick second, but the Stargazer itself, all for like as cool of a ship as it was, and it was obviously featured in the Fleet Museum in Star Trek Picard season 3, as it had survived what Picard thought was its destruction. Um, it did not have, like the getting an A or a B or a C or a D after the name of your ship, after the registry of your ship, tends to be only on very special occasions for very special ships. And although Picard was an amazing captain for the Stargazer, the 2893 didn't kind of follow through. So the new registry obviously comes through. But the Stargazer itself was named for Captain Picard, or Admiral Picard in this case, as in 2401, at the end of season 1 of Star Trek Picard. He went ahead and rejoined Starfleet. They christened the Sagan-class starship the Stargazer in honor of Admiral Picard, as a little nod to him. And getting Captain Cristobal Rios as the captain for that, what fitting, it's such a fitting, like, of course it's storytelling, and of course they're going to do all that, but I just think it's a really cool nod to Picard bringing Rios back into the fold and kind of getting him to move past his past a little bit. But the Stargazer is a long-range cruiser. As you can see here, there is a 4 nacelle design, and if you guys aren't familiar, and I guess the deep cut for this month's episode of the Starship Collection is to talk a little bit about the 4 nacelle design. Now, you might be wondering, why 4 nacelles? Most Starfleet ships have 2, and the reason they do this, as this is a long-range cruiser, it is a deep space vessel. It's meant to head out into the frontier and continue on with the continuing voyages. And basically, this ship is capable of going to warp for a long time and staying in warp for almost indefinitely. Now, the 4 nacelle design allows for a system called warp coasting. There are 2 warp cores on the ship and 2 separate sets of nacelles. Each warp core powers its own set of nacelles, and as the ship is traveling through warp, it'll use only 2 of those nacelles. As they get to the overheating point, they will switch warp cores and switch nacelles. And for a brief moment, all 4 nacelles will be working at the same time, but then they'll shut off the second set of nacelles, and the ship, in essence, will switch back and forth between the top nacelles and then the bottom nacelles, and basically make so that they're, in theory, can stay at warp 7 indefinitely. The max speed for the ship is warp 9.95, and in theory could hold that for probably 2.5 to 3 times longer than faster ships than like the Sovereign class Enterprise E or the Intrepid class Voyager. Both ships were capable of traveling a warp 9.95 for very short periods of time, whereas this ship would be capable of going 9.5 for an extended period of time, almost 2 to 3 times longer before both warp cores are just too warm and they need to actually go through their cooldown periods. So, this ship is capable of traveling basically at warp 7 indefinitely, as there's enough time for cooldown at warp 7, so that it can head out to the frontier and get out there in a quick fashion, much faster than some of the other ships are capable of doing. Now, a couple things about this ship. In canon, the ship itself is 540 meters long, which is a fairly large ship, but a majority of that coming from the long nacelles on the bottom half of the ship. The ship itself is also 230 meters wide, and it's also 127 meters tall, encompassing 16 decks. There are 10 phaser arrays on the ship, but as for what I can see from designs both in and out of canon and what have you, I can't tell exactly if there are any photon torpedo launchers. So makes sense, as this is a long range explorer, but I just wonder if it was something that was kind of like overlooked, or we just don't see it in the designs anywhere. So that's just a little bit of the overview of the in canon and out of canon kind of look at the Stargazer itself. So there was our little bit of our facts and figures for our model for this month. Look forward to next month with the Farragut and kind of diving into a little bit of the history and lore of the name Farragut and a little actually looking into what we're going to be seeing for the in-canon lore, as I haven't actually explored that. So there we are, on to the next segment, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the model. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, so like I said, let me know what you guys think. It's one of those things where it takes a little bit of work, doing a little bit of studying. Obviously, I'm a huge nerd and it doesn't take much knowledge to put it together, but obviously, putting together little tiles and things like that and putting together the video elements takes a much longer. Something I love doing, but if it's something that you guys aren't interested in, and just let me know. And I was just thinking that it might be interesting for a little bit behind the scenes for, once again, how the ship was designed, how it wound up being both, in canon from like the fictional point of view, and then from the real world perspective. So let's go ahead and get this bad boy unboxed after, a couple minutes of you guys wanting to actually see what this model looks like. So let's go ahead and get our seal open. I have not seen this yet. So let's see how this looks. I'm very curious. The Titan turned out to look really, really good. My only knock against the Titan was the color of the impulse engines. They're red, not orange, and so I will see if that is the case here as well. I certainly hope not. All right. Oh, yeah. These magazines, by the way, are really, really nice. So, here's our magazine, and gives you a little bit of the information, some of which I just gave you. Um, Much more condensed down version. I haven't read this, but I did do my research beforehand. So if you guys do want to read this, go ahead and read through by just pausing on each one of these scenes. And this magazine feels really nice. The artwork looks really nice. Yeah, it really is a good looking magazine. Talks about the design, obviously trying to replicate the four nacelle design. And if you guys did skip over, the four nacelle design is meant so that you can reach basically maximum warp and sustain it for a much longer period of time, because you do something called warp coasting, which is basically turning on two nacelles and then shutting them off and then turning them on for another period of time. So talking about some of the design elements, these are some of the things that I actually haven't seen, which is very cool. I'm like kind of looking at this going, oh man, look at this. So once again, if you guys want to read them, go ahead and pause. I'll be reading this afterwards. Talking how they kind of standardize the thought, the thought process was is they're going to standardize nacelle design, which is something that I really like. And the look at the shuttle bay, which is a very cool design actually. And there's our back page. All right, so let's go ahead and get our model unboxed. Looks like we arrived unscathed, but that thing is sitting in there a little funny. I am glad that the model is not broken. All right, so wow. All right, first thing I checked, the impulse engines and the Bussard collectors are all red, as they should be. So let's go ahead and pull this out of frame so we can get a good look at this. All of the windows are properly put in place. All of the different decals, the Aztecing looks much better than what we got on the Titan. That looks really, really good. The registry is looking really fantastic on there. You can see the warp stabilization crystals there up top, which further helps the Starship once again maintain its warp bubble for a longer period of time. That's what the top looks like. The nacelles, once again, very familiar design from what we saw last time. They do a little bit of a design flip on them, which is very cool on the side there. There's the side of the model. Side profile is very cool. I really like the updated design of the more modern the classic Starfleet ship, but the more modern version of it. The deflector dish right on the lower part of the saucer section right down there. So let's look at it from a forward view. See if I can focus that. And then there's the forward view. Very cool. This looks really good. Then the aft view. And then the shuttle bay with the Stargazer name put on there. It's a little rough, but you're able to pick it up. That looks great. That's a really good looking model. All right. I got to say, it's got some good heft to it. It's got some good weight. This I feel is a superior model to the Titan. As much as I hate to say it, but this one does look better. The Aztecing looks better on here. Feels much more in line with what we're used to seeing with Starfleet vessels. Obviously, kind of takes some of that newer design that we started seeing incorporated on the Enterprise E, and moving forward, with the colored panels and adding a little bit of flair to their ships. You got the red ring around the outside, which is accurate. Something I was curious to see if they were going to include. I watched an episode of Picard last night, just to kind of get familiar with what I was going to be receiving today, and everything looks really accurate to what we got. I really hope these scans are used for model kits later on. This would be a fantastic model to build. I would really like to light one of these kits. All right, so let's go ahead and set that down real fast. And in order to prevent it from laying on the table going forward, let's go ahead and grab the base and grab the holder here for it. So the base, once again, is a nice weight. It feels fairly sturdy. This model is a little funny on the shape, so I'm curious to see how weight distribution is going to wind up looking. Okay, so that's put in place. And then I'm assuming it's going to be sitting just like this. That's correct. Oh, that looks good. All right, so let me go ahead and select over to the side camera over here. And there it is on its display. Holds really nice. I much prefer that it's not displayed in some sort of like flying like way. The Titan A is very much displayed as such, and so very interesting. This looks really good. This is definitely a step up from what the first round. So with the Titan A, I feel like this is a much more improved model over what we saw last month. And if that continues, I'm going to be very pleased, because some of the models we're going to be getting here in the coming months are going to be like the Odyssey class Enterprise F, and some of the more iconic ships that are coming that we have seen, including a much larger version of the Titan A, which they rechristen as the Enterprise G, which is going to be one of our XL models. So there it is from the side, and I think, whoa, make sure we don't drop it here. But we'll go ahead and get it set like this, and we'll kind of do one of our outros here as I get it to try to focus in on the model itself. And what might be good is set this here so that it's got a nice background to kind of focus up against the back of. And there we are. So there is our model. It does look fantastic. Let me see if I can actually set this down back up on here. This might be a good way of doing this. Gets my big fat hands out of the way. And there it is. All right, my friends. Well, that's this month's dispatch of the Starships collection from Fanhome. This is month number 2. I'm right at the very beginning of all this, so everybody's starting to get them as they've been rolling out. And I've been pretty fortunate to actually get this one fairly quickly from Fanhome, because it was the holidays, and I was surprised it actually got here pretty quick. So there it is. Once again, please let me know what you guys think about the little facts and figures section that I put together for you about the lore and kind of the specifications and figures for the ship. Let me know if you guys like that, and if you'd like anything added or removed. I know it added a couple minutes to the video, and you guys were really here to take a look at the model. But with that being said, it's something that I was like really thinking about doing. And so if you like it, please let me know. Give me some feedback back down below. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you. I know there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me drool over a model, and I think that's pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. Like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world where we happen to be. And just remember, my friends, to always live long and prosper.